We are back again with Men the Mind, episode 9. Another couple of guests with us. This time we've got Erich and Brandon. We're going to kick this off with some fun facts. Is that right, Mike?
Yeah. Quick little bio. Fun facts about the gang today. So Erich or Brandon, whichever one of y'all want to start. Let the people know who y'all are, where you're from, what you do, and give us a fun fact.
Brandon, why don't you start us off here? You look like you're right.
You would, but all right. I guess that's fair. All right. So I'm Brandon. I am from New York, Syracuse area. I work as a travel physical therapist for just about a year and a half now at this point. Fun facts. I'm not like super fun, but I played the violin for like 12 years, and that's actually how I met Erich. So I guess that's probably my first fun fact. Him and I were getting bullied in the football team locker room because we played the violin, but birthed a beautiful friendship, and here we are now, X amount of years later.
That's a great fun fact. Honestly, I might have to use it for myself, but my name is Erich. I am from Syracuse, New York. Grew up with Nick and Brandon, went to high school with both of them. And I moved out to Phoenix recently, about a year ago at this point. So I'm now currently residing in Phoenix, where it's still 99 degrees mid-October. We're not complaining, though. Great golf weather. But I work in software sales. I'm just in sales in general. I've worked a couple sales jobs. Went to college for public relations. But, kids, that's how it works out. Roll the dice, find what makes the most money. Fun fact about me is that I actually used to bully Brandon in middle school for playing the violin. That's how we met, actually. I used to bully him until he started crying, until I was like, you know what, this kid's not that bad at violin. And then he actually became my sensei when it comes to the violin, and made me feel like I could play that high knee and the high E and the low G. Pause, but thanks.
Hey, Erich, you must be doing pretty well for yourself. Like, you got a nice crib back there, man. You got the is that like a baby grand piano back there that you can rock out on?
Grandfather's. It was
baby grand piano from grandfather, and then everything else is IKEA.
Everything else, the worst store ever. You got to build it all yourself, right?
I hate it so much, but dude, I'm addicted to it. I can't not go. It's like I just gotta go. It's so beautiful seeing it in the distance because it's just right up the road here.
Hey,
and then I'm just like,
crazy idea. IKEA comes up with a Halloween corn maze. They already got the maze running there. They just make everything Halloween themed. And boom, they got people buying stuff there, spending time there. You can do some pumpkin carving, like one-stop shop at IKEA. All right,
but you got to bring your own tools, because
there we go. You got to bring your own tools.
You got to build your tools there. You can't build them anywhere. Build them at home and bring them in.
Be like a scavenger hunt. Every time you go trick or treat, they just give you a different piece for whatever you're building. Where does this go? I don't know.
You end up with like 8 Allen wrenches and like 3 wooden pieces that you haven't used yet. You're like, where the hell do these go, man? Always have an extra part.
You got to be extras. The last thing they give you. Last thing they give you has to be the instructions. You can't have that ahead of time. Yeah.
You gotta make them yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all read instructions anyway. Guys read instructions. That's a thing.
Nah, I know. It's just 6 cents.
We don't need those.
I'm making it with my girlfriend, and she makes me read the instructions. Or like if it's me.
Well, it's obvious that she knows I'm not reading them when I have the whole thing upside down. She's like, "What?" Well, I can't read either way. I like looking at the pictures.
All right, Mike, do you have a fun fact?
Let's see here. What is my fun fact? Dang, kind of put me on the spot. Do I have a fun? Okay. Kind of sticking with the theme of musical instruments here. My fun fact is that I want to learn how to play the piano and the saxophone.
Here we go.
I think the two real fire instruments. I think I would be. I actually took a piano class my senior year of college as an elective. I needed like 1 more credit to fill up my schedule, and started learning the piano. So that was a lot of fun. I think I'm gonna pick that up full time when I find some time, put down another hobby and need something else to do. So that's my fun fact: piano and saxophone.
Nice,
beautiful.
Nick? Yeah, I'll follow up music with more music. One, actually, my coworker's husband does lessons, majored in musical history with an emphasis on saxophone. Yesterday equated it to a saxophone degree. So there's some potential there.
There's a degree in sax.
Yeah.
Chris Wallace, Brandon. It rips the sax, man. Love our buddies out here.
A good fun fact. I took choir for a quarter in middle school, not even a full semester.
They paid you a quarter to take choir?
Yeah. They moved me. They had me do a solo because they were like, "You're not singing enough." And then after I did a solo in like practice, they moved me to the back and told me to keep it down.
Turn it down. What about the fact that you're not a Bills fan? Wearing a Bills sweatshirt. That's crazy. You say that now because I've never heard that come out of your mouth.
Yeah, I haven't either. It developed in Tallahassee. The further I got from upstate New York, that's wild. The Bills are actually pretty decent. As a fan base, I don't really care if they win. I just like that they drink in the parking lot.
Every team, but they just record it more.
All right. Well, got a fun topic. Hit me. Usually I ask the guests if they have anything that they want to talk about. I think I floated that out a few weeks earlier and nothing came back. So I proposed one. I think it fits everybody really well. And the whole idea today is taking jumps, taking risks, trying new things, and maybe what goes into that, how to benefit from it, why people don't, and when to cut losses as well. So full slate. Eric, you mentioned that you are in good old Arizona now. Brandon, yes, you spent some time in Arizona as well.
Yep.
Mike, big jump from Ohio to Florida for school.
Yeah.
And then myself as well from New York down to Florida for grad school. That's a pretty big jump geographically, of course, but everything associated with it, quite a switch up. Is it an easy decision? I'd like to go around the horn with that first.
Is taking jumps or the jumps that we made in particular?
The jumps that we made geographically.
Go ahead, Eric.
I would say, no, it wasn't easy to start. I feel like my whole life throughout high school, I was always more of like a reserved kid. Never went to the high school parties, never really did any of that stuff, field parties, all that stuff. I just kind of thought it not as taboo because some of my friends were doing it. I just wasn't interested. And I saw some of the stuff that I was kind of missing. I didn't regret it. But I know in college, I was with somebody who just never liked any of that stuff. In college is when somebody, in my opinion, develops their character. You kind of start realizing who you are, who your real friends are going to be for the rest of your life, right? So I started kind of hanging out with my good friends who were doing stuff. And I realized, drinking, partying, doing the college life isn't so bad. But the person I was with at the time just really didn't like it at all. So it kind of put me in this shell. And then from after graduation, a big leap that I kind of made was like, you know what, I'm going to start doing more things with my buddies. I left that relationship, but I started hanging out. We started traveling a lot more. We started, hey, like 2 weeks from now, we're going to Colorado. I'm like, fuck it, I'm in, man. Like, let's go. Nick Davis is like, yo, come down to FSU. And I was like, yeah, I'm in. Let's go. Let's do it. Like 3 weeks before I was supposed to leave, and then I started traveling, went out to Vegas and Phoenix the following summer. And I was with some of my best friends. And I realized I was like, New York, is it for me? The whole life out here with the mountains, the desert, you can ATV wherever you want. You can off-road, the Mexican food out here in general, just everything about it kind of just fell into my niche of what I really liked and what I really cared about. The outdoors, as well as like, sometimes you're partying and drinking with your friends, and it's just a good atmosphere to be around, not kind of the shitty winters of New York. Even though I like snowboarding, which I can go up an hour and a half north from where I'm at now and snowboard basically all year round. It's a huge mountain. So I kind of took that leap just in general, talking about in the sense of like geographically living. I kind of just took that leap because I trusted my instincts. I trusted my friends who were actually coming out with me too. And I knew I was going to be able to fly home whenever I wanted to see my family. just because there's flights all the time. You know, maybe have to book the flight out a couple months just to save that money, so I'm not spending $500 last minute. But people, when I moved out here, I kind of got a high off the fix that people were like, yo, you're moving out there, like all the way out there, 200,000 miles away, or however many miles it is, like 2,500 or something accurate.
I don't think so.
People were like getting like that fix off that. And my brother was like, yo, I got to come visit you. That's sick. So I felt like I was getting a little bit more respect for stuff that I was doing.
Yeah.
Brandon, was it similar for you?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with a lot of what Eric had to say. I think it's easy, especially like when you're in high school, to kind of get comfortable in the environment and the place that you're at. You know, you spend, for a lot of people, 18 years in the same sort of town around the same groups of people, and it's easy to get comfortable being around those people. You kind of know the good places to go. You kind of know the people you enjoy hanging out with. You have favorite restaurants, kind of family close by, and you kind of have a good lay of the land and things like that. And I think because of that, it's easy to stay stagnant and want to just stay in a place that's comfortable. And I think that's, you know, if that's what you want to do in life and that's where you want to be, that's totally okay. When I went to undergrad and then grad school, I kind of just moved a little bit further west. I wasn't ever too far away from home. I think the furthest I was away from home was like 2.5 to 3 hours. But similar to Eric, just getting that taste of experiencing a new place, and getting to immerse yourself in a different culture. You know, we were just talking about Buffalo, and that's where I went to grad school, and being around a city like that was something I had never been around before. And that sort of feeling after graduation kind of led me to want to experience different cities and different locations. And fortunately for me, I was lucky enough to be in a career where I could do that. You know, granted, COVID made that a little bit more difficult at the time. But now getting the opportunities to go to places that, you know, have short-term needs for people in my field, I get the opportunity to experience it. And when Eric was jumping on the opportunity to go to Arizona, I figured, you know, why not? It was going to be winter at the time here, and I wasn't really feeling fully up to immersing myself in another winter. But you know, he convinced me, and my girlfriend and I ended up making the trip, stopped along the way, and visited a couple different places that I never would have had the opportunity to visit. And made a lot of great memories along the way. And yeah, it was really awesome to experience a whole different side of the world. I guess not really the world, but the country, you know. And you know, they have a very heavy Mexican population, so there's a lot of Spanish speaking and a really heavy Spanish culture there. So dusting off the Spanish from high school and using that every now and then was a little bit tough at first, but we adapted, and I think it's something I can see myself continuing to do for the foreseeable future, at least.
Dope. Brandon, how long have you and your girlfriend been together?
Just over a year. Yeah. So we got together, and then shortly after that, we both decided to make the jump together. So,
got you. Does she speak Spanish as well, or is she practicing her Spanish?
More so than me. Her mom's actually a Spanish teacher for like a long time. So she knew a lot more than I did going out there. So she was able to give me a few tricks of the trade when it came to treating patients who predominantly spoke Spanish, which is always good.
Yeah.
So she was really helpful and supportive.
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts. Nikki, do you?
Yeah. I think the first thing that's super interesting is making the jump versus if the jump sticks or not, and what your mindset is with that. One thing, I don't know if we touched on this at all when you were backstage with us, Mike, but Brandon's back in New York again. He's more in the mountains than in Syracuse, but it was a shorter trip for Brandon to Arizona. Whether he goes back or not, who knows? But Eric is very happy there. I think sees himself in Arizona for the foreseeable future, which is interesting because for us, Mike and myself, we went down for school talking about Tallahassee. So there was somewhat of a time limit on it. Tallahassee was a complete 180 from upstate New York. I think there's a lot of people in upstate who either stay there for the long haul and enjoy what they have, and then the other half just want to get out but can't until they Usually it's undergrad that you leave after. There's not a lot of people that go out of state. But definitely wanted to be out after undergrad. The winters, as Brandon mentioned, got the best of me, was ready for a change of scenery. And I don't know how much different you can go from a small D3 private school to Florida State. So got to see the other side of things, or some different experiences and how things work. And I think that was eye-opening, and I enjoyed it a lot. The weather has stuck with me the most. It is 60 degrees some of these weeks, and I am freezing. I don't know what happened to my New York.
Your blood thing. Your blood. Yeah. That's real. That's a real thing.
Need to get back down to Florida.
Yeah.
But it was very interesting. I was grateful that I took the jump and got to see, as we talk about a lot of times, other sides, more options, and then you can choose what you want to focus on from there. But at least acknowledging and gaining the understanding of different ways of life was super helpful to me.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I would echo what you said about being grateful. Definitely. Very grateful for the jump, being able to go down there to live and have a great time at Florida State and Tallahassee. And then to finally make it back to Cincinnati after almost 10 years. I don't know if I've ever publicly said this, but when I moved to Tallahassee, I cried. I cried when I realized I was going to be by myself. And it was crazy because I went down, I graduated high school June 5th, 6th, 7th, something like that. And had to be in Tallahassee for summer track and field and cross country camp by like the 16th. So I had maybe 10 days, maybe 12 days to get everything together, move down, and get situated. And as a matter of fact, the weekend before we were scheduled to be down there, I was actually in North Carolina at New Balance Nationals in high school. So graduated on a Tuesday. That weekend, drive to North Carolina, compete that weekend, and then a couple of days later, go from North Carolina straight down to Tallahassee. So the transition happened very, very quickly after high school, and I was only there for 3 months. I think I was there June, July, and then maybe it was 2.5, and then part of August before school started at the end of August. So the first 2.5 months, I was good. Get down there, parents dropped me off. They dropped back, but then I flew back home for break, and then on the way back to Tallahassee, I kid you not, as the plane touched the ground, I could not help it. Tears just straight down my face. Don't know why, don't know how. It was at that point, and I'm not a crier at all. I never have been. I don't know if I ever will be. So like for me to be crying, and luckily enough, there was nobody in the seat next to me. So I'm sitting here like holding myself. I'm like, what is happening right now? So to answer your question, was it an easy move? It wasn't. I wasn't even 18 yet, as a matter of fact. I'm sorry. I turned 18 during that first stint there for 2.5 months. But I wasn't initially 18 when I first got down to school. So even age doesn't make you an adult, but I was still very much so a kid at this point, moving 600 miles away from home. Made a decision. I was like, yeah, this is where I want to go. Like I want to compete down here, but I didn't realize what I was actually doing until I got down there. I was by myself, and I really had to make some things shake. So was it an easy move? No. Grateful for it? Absolutely. Would I do it again? 1,000% in a heartbeat.
Just to kind of say real quick about, you just kind of reminded me of something, Mike, with when you take that leap, it is terrifying every time, no matter what that leap is. If you're terrified to just go to the grocery store by yourself, you know what I mean? Just silly stuff like that. And you end up going, you're like, it's not that bad. But those moves across the country, where maybe it's a trip or a long-term stint, you're like, dude, this is going to suck. And then you end up coming back with some of the best memories you've ever done. And I think learning that myself, and I'm sure you guys have too, at that younger age, when the first couple, you're like shaky, but then you're like, I'm looking forward to it. Like I would love to do it. Maybe I won't love it, but I would say 9 times out of 10, those opportunities always turn out to be something that you're like, I am so happy I did it.
No, I agree. And even beyond the place is important, but I think, at least for me, it's the people along the way. So you get to a place, like a place is going to be a place. You can maybe make it better, nightlife, the population around there, demographic, all that stuff. But when it comes down to it, the people that you interact with, like there's no telling who you're going to meet along the way. I would have never guessed in a million years. I'm on a StreamYard with 3 guys from upstate New York, from Syracuse. Like it didn't make sense. That's not things that you think about. And then to be as close with Nick as I am, to have met Natalie, just little things like that make you really, really grateful for the opportunity to meet more people and to grow your network and to really see and know what's out there. So yeah, I agree with you, Eric.
I think it's interesting what you kind of touched on there, like emphasizing the people and how that has such a big impact on it. Because I think a lot of the times when you get anxious or fearful about a new move, if you want to describe it like that, is you're not even as anxious necessarily for going to a new place. Because a lot of the time, sometimes a new place can seem like an oasis in a sense. You know, you're going from Cincinnati to Florida State. I think, no offense to Cincinnati, but a lot of people may choose, you know, Florida and the warmth over being up that way. But I think you're more so anxious about leaving all the people and the connections that you developed over the course of your time in the previous place. And I think that was the hardest part for me moving to a new place was, okay, I'm going to this new place. Granted, I had my girlfriend there. I had Eric and a couple buddies not too far away. But at the end of the day, like it was up to me to make friends through work or go out and kind of put myself out there and develop relationships that would make or break kind of my time in Arizona.
Right.
So yeah, I thought it was really cool how you highlighted that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good segue into another piece that I wanted to bring up. You mentioned it briefly as well, but the biggest thing in my head for why people don't take leaps, not just in the sense of a move geographically, but in different companies, different jobs, different relationships, is the comfort zone that you had brought up. It's comfortable. There's a lot that you appreciate about your comfort zone. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a comfort zone by definition. But what is crazy is how good the opportunities are, and you just don't know what they are. I think when we talk about taking a jump, as you mentioned, the location might be great, but if you don't know anybody, that's probably a major thing that holds people back. I know some of my friends that, whether they ultimately made the move or not, were terrified to lose the support system that they had. Even if that support system is dwindling, which you often see in your hometown, people are moving away and doing different things as jobs come up and opportunities present themselves, and still you might not want to make the move. So I can resonate with both sides there. But I think a lot of times the excuses weigh a lot more than the benefits for whatever reason, which has always been a really fascinating piece to me with jumps, especially with work or even changing school districts, things like that. Yeah, I guess on that note of excuses weighing more than the benefits, what do you guys think about that concept?
Yeah, I think a lot of the times it's easy to look at the negatives with no matter what the decision is. And I think naturally as humans, we tend to jump to the worst case scenario because we don't know what it's going to play out as. And naturally we want to stay safe and secure, and that comfort zone offers that. But I think one thing that helps me a lot when dealing with that sort of thing is just kind of sit back and remember that we don't really have as much control over the situation as we like to think we have. You know, at the end of the day, what's going to happen is going to happen. And for all we know, like moving across the country, applying to a new job, you know, going out on that date with someone else or trying a new dinner could be, you know, the best decision you make, and you would never know it if you don't try it. So I think it's natural and normal to sit there and make out excuses and reasons why you're not willing or ready to make that change or try to make that change. And that's okay if at the end of the day you're not ready at that specific point. But I think kind of sitting there and just trying to remember that you know, maybe this move or this change is the thing that's going to spark a bigger momentum that could lead to more positive things, and that helps.
Check this. I did something earlier on a smaller scale, still on topic. I think excuses versus benefits. I'm going to tie this in. There is no right answer for this in a sense. Like we have the autonomy, the freedom to move wherever we want, to pretty much do whatever we want, like within the law, all of these things. There is no right answer to it. So I think a lot of times people get paralyzed by thinking, all right, if I do this, is this the right thing? Now there may be an answer or solution that is better suited for you at the time, but again, is it the right answer necessarily? No, this isn't a test. This isn't life or death. Like, you can make the decision that you have to make. And it was something silly. I was leaving church earlier. I had to stop at Kroger. I could go to 2 Krogers. I could really go to any one in the city that I want to go to. There were 2 that were close. And there's one that I always go to. I'm like, this is the one I want to go to. It's like a little bit past my house. Not a big deal. But there's one on the way. I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to stop at this one today. And in my head, I was freaking out. I'm like, all right, I got about 2 minutes before I got to make a decision. Which Kroger do I go to? And I told myself, I was like, Michael, you're being stupid right now. There is no right answer for the Kroger that you got to go to. Just pick one and go to it. Like, this paralysis by analysis, it's dumb. Unless it's life or death, like, pick something, take a chance at it and just do it. So again, like, smaller scale, but I think the excuse people use all the time is this the right answer? Is this the right choice? Yeah, again, there's one probably better suited for you. But when it comes down to it, there probably is no right answer for it. Whatever you choose, it's going to be up to you when you get there, when you make the decision, to make the most of the decision and create the best possible outcome.
Kind of like following up with that statement, with the choosing the Kroger, I used to do the same thing all the time, especially in New York. I had a certain thing that I like to do, follow what I usually do, go to the same Dunkin' Donuts, even if it's out of the way, right?
Yeah.
Days, I mean, since I've been here, right, I go to the gym basically 6 times a week, and I will go to, like, there's a ton of different EOS locations. EOS is a gym around here, and there's an EOS in every direction, right? I have the pass that you can go to all of them. So instead of going, like, I get fixed off of going to a different one each time to see, how's this one set up? What kind of competition is here, in the sense of, like, maybe I'll learn something new at this one. Maybe there's certain people that there's a reason why I'm going to this one to meet, that it might change my life in the sense of, like, information given for lifting and all that stuff. So I think about that all the time, and I get that fix of, like, going to different, grocery stores. Let's see what this one has, because I know I had a good experience at a different one time because I changed my mind, right? So, like, kind of echoing off what you said, it's like, it's almost like you have to broaden your comfort zone. You're comfortable with going to the same kind of store, but you're going to a different location, right? Yeah. To broaden it even more, you go to a whole different grocery store name where it's set up completely different. But that's the thing. It's like, you almost have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like how any JV basketball or varsity basketball coach would tell you, be comfortable being uncomfortable, be comfortable being uncomfortable when you're doing your planks or your push-ups. And it starts from day one, since you're in middle school, high school sports, right? And then echoing off that, when people really outweigh their excuses versus the benefits, I say that really comes from just the human anxiety. Everyone has some sort of nervousness or an uneasiness. I would say like 90% of people have some sort of anxiety towards that, because it's completely different of what they want. So they're reaching for those excuses to be like, you know what? The cons outweigh the pros. I'm not taking that leap. I'm okay with being comfortable. I'm okay with working at the same job. I'm okay with living in the same place in my parents' basement, or whatever it might be. Your financial situation, any situation might be different. But it's just kind of what they follow as, like, I'm letting my emotions, not my heart, dictate where I want to be in my life. It might stop you later down too. 10 years from now, if you don't take that leap, it could affect you and you're not well off, or, vice versa. Yeah. It depends on where you're going, all that stuff.
Yeah. And Just one more last point to sort of piggyback on that I really like that Eric talked about is like at the end of the day, trying something as simple as trying a new gym location, or like you were saying, Mike, going to a different grocery store than you usually go to. Worst comes to worst, you walk into the store, the new location, and you hate it. You don't like the layout. You don't like the staff. Then you just don't go back. You just don't.
Right.
You know what? At the end of the day, I tried it, didn't like it. Now I'll try a different one next time. You know?
Yeah. I literally told myself, I said, I got to get bananas. It doesn't matter if I get them from this Kroger or the Kroger up the street. I said, Kroger does not care if I buy them here or at this one. They're still going to get their money the same way. Like as a company, Kroger they don't know who I am. They don't care about me. All right. So I'm going to go to this grocery store, get what I got to get and leave. So
it's almost like when my girlfriend asks, yo, what should I wear? I want to wear this, but I don't like the way that fits. And then I'm looking at her like, be more comfortable. And then sometimes I have to look at myself in the mirror and be like, Eric, you're doing the same thing that, let's say, my girlfriend or my buddy would do. That's like trying to make that tough decision for them, but it's easier for you to be like, yo, pick this. If this makes sense logically, let's use our brains here. Sometimes I have to talk myself into that stuff as well. Like, Eric, use your brain. Like, think logically, almost like you're talking to yourself. Like the Green Goblin versus the guy that saw William Dafoe in the movie Spider-Man. Green Goblin mask. And he's talking. Oh, never mind. Reference over the head. Let's do it.
We got you. I'm here. I got you.
I think that's an important point that you bring up, Eric, of everyone has their different comfort zones and things within them. Brandon, you hit a point for me earlier that was try something else for dinner. Love Mama Davis to death. As a 3-year-old, all I wanted was chicken nuggets and spaghetti. All I ate until I hit college was chicken nuggets and spaghetti.
That's crazy. You shouldn't have said that.
No, I
thought it was a great idea. I thought I was living the dream. And so for other people, it's like, just try this, try to eat this. I'm like, dude, I can count the number of foods that I eat on my fingers. That's scary. And they're looking at me like, what are you talking about? It's broccoli. I ate broccoli till I got to college. That's a fun fact for you.
You didn't eat broccoli?
It's my favorite vegetable now. I never would have known if I didn't try it, but it took me a while to get there.
So what vegetables did you eat growing up?
Corn, green beans, and peas. That was it. All frozen. That was my mom's selection. We told her we didn't want to try anything else, so she wouldn't do it. I cut out carrots at like age 6 because I didn't like
crazy talk.
Executive decision at 6 years old. I love it. Yeah. No more carrots in this house, Mom.
What? Oh man. Real quick before we move past this, we've hit on some of the excuses that people make when they have a big decision or a life change that they're approaching or debating on. What do y'all think? What do y'all think some of the benefits are of making the change? It could be as small, again, as going to a different grocery store, or as big as taking a new job, promotion, leaving a company, moving across the country. Like, what are some of those benefits for some people who may be listening in and they think, dang, that's me. I want to do that. How do I do it? And what are the benefits when I get there? Like, what is that experience like?
I would say for the most part, I mean, obviously with a job, it's usually, am I going to make more money? What's my salary? How much is that salary increase? What's the smallest threshold I will take for a salary increase to move across the country? Kind of have that conversation with yourself. Obviously, if it's an increase, it's almost like a no-brainer, especially if you're looking to make that much more money and that leap in your career. That kind of transition to that next point. It's almost like you get to network with more people. Networking is the biggest thing you can do. That'll get you a new job in the future. As well as you get that life experience to be able, hey, I'm entertaining at parties because I moved across the country and I can come home basically whenever I want. So you kind of make yourself a little bit more interesting in that sense as well. It just has a benefit in general if you're talking about just making that move, taking that job, going to that different store. You know, you could bring it as small as you want or as large as you want, but sometimes things happen for a reason. You just have to go with the flow, go with the pace. Does it feel right? In your gut, everyone has that gut feeling that says, does this feel good? If it doesn't feel good, maybe ask yourself why. But then that's kind of where I'm at with that.
For sure. I think the The biggest thing for me that I think I've realized when it comes to trying new things or making new changes is the only way you're going to find out what it's like is by doing it. So by making the change or giving it an attempt, it takes the kind of curiosity out of it, because after you try it and after you give like your full honest effort, you get an idea of what it is. And then from that point, you can make like a true conscious decision on, is this something I want to continue doing, or do I need to, audible and move to something else? But I think just getting the curiosity piece out of it, that can cure a lot of anxieties on its own. So yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, I agree with everything Brandon said. To me, it's driving understanding. Again, it's easy to say that the grass is always greener looking at something. But when we push you a little bit closer to the edge to actually make the jump, that's when you start to drag your feet, I think, for most people when we talk about decisions. And so keeping the focus on the grass is greener and the appreciation can either be strengthened by the understanding once you make the jump, or threatened by the unknown when you have certainties in your current situation.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting dynamic to me. I think it's also crazy. It depends so much on the context. No one has an issue scrolling through TikTok or Reels for a few hours and seeing what they throw at you. You're often like, wow, this is such a cool recipe. I wish I'd try it. Something as silly as that. But if I ask you while you have a lease to go look at different apartments just cause and see what's out there, that's ridiculous. Why would you do that? And so that's always interesting to me as well. And social media in general is kind of toxic when we get to the comparison piece. The grass is always greener if you're only looking at the grass and not focusing on the benefits that you have in your situation. But again, to the same point, why can't you do that in a new situation? Why can't you choose to find the good? Life is what you make it if you want it to be, or you can keep looking at other people's yards.
No, I agree with all three of those things. And I think y'all have made some very valid points when it comes down to it. I want to add on that for me personally, probably the biggest benefit, and maybe not the biggest, but the most valuable benefit for me so far, I'm tying it back to the people. It is such a cool feeling to be able to fly to California, Arizona, Boston. If I decide to go back to Florida, Texas, I can call somebody up because these are people I've met from moving around. I can be like, hey, I'm in town, or hey, I'm coming in town. Let's grab lunch. Let's hang out. There have been times where I've flown, flight's been canceled, and I'm in the middle of the leg. I was in Dallas, matter of fact. And I call somebody up like, yo, my flight just got canceled. I was supposed to have a layover here. Do you mind if I stay with you? And people are like, they love it. They love, hey, bro, I appreciate you thinking of me. I'm glad you hit me up. Of course you got a place to stay. And it's really, really cool. And it makes you feel good. It makes you feel good that you've been good to people. People respect you enough and they like you enough to say, yeah, you are welcome in my home. Come stay with me. Whether their parents are there, they have their own place, whatever the case may be. But to have the ability to have resources in place and be able to do that, huge benefit, hands down. The most valuable benefit, at least for me, when it comes to making big leaps.
That's how I live my life, in the sense where it's like, Brandon sees it. Every time we used to go out, I used to just make friends with literally everybody, in the sense where I'm introducing myself. I'm talking, as a kind of a sales guy. It's just second nature at this point, just because I deal with new people every single day. Yep. But you meet some of the most interesting people in the world. And sometimes they give you some of the best advice, not maybe while drinking, because everyone thinks that they're a goddamn philosopher, but just like, in the airport, it's like, you say something to somebody, you make their day. It makes you feel a little bit better, just like you say something silly, you say something stupid to them, and maybe they're nervous about flying. You just made it that much easier for them. And like, maybe they'll do the same to you. You know what I mean? It's like everywhere you go, not everybody has to be a stranger. And like you said, again, it's good to have people in all different places where, I have friends. I had one of my best friends, Robbie Newman. He was living in South Korea these last 8 months. And I had the opportunity to go to South Korea. Now, that's one of those things I kind of missed out on because I don't know when I'm going to go to South Korea ever again.
Right.
I mean, I know in the future, but Rob was living there and he was like, come see me just for, $1,000, part of a paycheck, whatever it might be, so take that opportunity, whoever you are, like go across the world, experience it for a week. If you absolutely hate it, you don't have to go back ever again. Plus, like, obviously be conscious of like where you're going in the world and stuff like that. Like, don't go to anything really like, crazy, obviously, but like kind of just keep it in your wheelhouse. Like follow your dreams, have your goals in mind, and take the path that would maybe lead to the values that you favor in the future, where you want your life. Maybe I'll meet my future wife here, future husband, whatever it might be. And, take those leaps. Like you'll never know. Like if you don't approach that one person at the bar that could be your husband or wife in the future, that's something that I did out here too. It's like I met my girlfriend like the first week here and, I call her as a joke. I'm like, yeah, my wife, like stuff like that. Like, oh yeah, my wife's calling, but she's great. She's one of the best relationships. This is the healthiest relationship I've ever been in my entire life. And I am so happy. All because I said something, a silly, stupid comment to her and she had the same energy back. Right. Cause you never know who those people are when you run into them.
Facts.
You brought up a couple points that I had written down. My grammar is phenomenal right now.
Yeah, it's hard. Words are hard.
Words are so hard, man.
So right.
Yeah, I just need to stick to car soccer. But one, I was going to talk about the airport. Super interesting. There's people who love talking to the random person next to them on the plane, and there's people who fear it, dread it, and don't want anything to do with it. I was going to ask you guys, which side are you on?
Oh, hey, I'm not gonna lie. Like,
ready.
Listen. When we get on the plane and they're still boarding, if they haven't said the main cabin door is closed, talk to me all you want. All right, we could be best buds. When that cabin door closes and they dim those lights, hey, it's a wrap, right? You have at this point, don't even talk to me. I'm putting my headphones in, and I'm a window guy. Like I know some people I'm a window guy. I like the left side, lean my head, and I'm out. Like don't talk to me. It's a wrap. We are good to go. And this is my time. All right. This is my time at this point. My girlfriend was telling me that she was flying one time and she put her headphones in. The woman next to her was still talking to her with her headphones in. It's like,
it's crazy, man. Some people don't.
I'm putting these in so we don't have to talk. Why? What are you doing? So yeah, once that boarding door closes, it's a wrap. Like, hey, it was nice talking to you. Enjoy your flight. Hope you get there safely whenever we land.
I think there's a generation disconnect sometimes too. It's like people who are maybe like 30, 40 kind of get when the headphones are in, you don't talk to that person. That's my rule. If I see somebody next to my neighbor, they got headphones in, especially over ear ones that really don't have the transparency mode that the AirPods do. I'm not saying lickety split to them. They can take a hike. Unless they want to talk to me, then they talk to me first if they want to initiate conversation. That's the other thing too, kind of going off that generational disconnect. I find that when I bring my AirPods and I'm going grocery shopping by myself and I bring my AirPods and I pop those bad bitches in quiet mode, I got Uzi playing in the ear, something crazy. I'm feeling great, right? I got Night Talk on repeat. And then I feel like more people want to talk to me when I have AirPods in or any headphone in. And I'm like, excuse me, what did you say? And then already it's a weird like disconnect right there. Because I don't want to come off as a rude guy, but also you're like interrupting my flow here, man. Like, let me grab those eggs. Excuse me, let me get those cookies. Let me get some Oreos, and then we'll be on our way. I don't have to talk to you. But I told my girlfriend this the other day. I said, when I have my AirPods in at the grocery store, people love to talk to me. At the gym, sometimes I forget my AirPods and any headphone, and people love to talk to me. That's just a little bit of a different thing because they see you don't have headphones in. But at the grocery store, it's usually the older people that are just like, oh, they make some sort of cute little comment. I'm like, ha, ha, ha. I didn't hear what they said. Keep walking.
I agree. I agree with both of those. My stance on the plane is, if I go to sit down in the seat, and the person who's going to be sitting next to me is already there, I'll give them like, what's up, how's it going? And just kind of get the vibes from there. And then same thing with the headphones. Like, I don't like to talk a lot during the flight, and it's not so much that I don't enjoy the socializing. I just don't want to piss off anyone else who's flying because it's all tight quarters. And the person behind me is like, you know, like you were saying, Mike's on a long layover where they had to crash somewhere else for a night. Their trip isn't going well. And they just want to sleep and knock out. Last thing I want to do is just be the asshole in front of them, just talking and screaming the whole time. But yeah, I noticed that too, Eric. Like anytime I got my headphones in, like I got to do the, sorry, huh? And they're like, oh no, man. I was just saying what's up. And you're just like, oh yeah, thanks, man. Keep it moving.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, like okay, what you got for me? You got money? All right, leave me alone. But then again, I'm that other guy too, though, that just likes to make stupid conversation if I need to, just to, like I said, make people laugh or whatever it might be. But not when they have, you know, headphones in. Like this is my moral rule. I think it's just our generation learned that.
Just read the room, you know?
Read the room, bro. I'm gonna start making that comment. Yo, read the room, bozo.
Can't you say I got my headphones in? Like dog, read the room.
Just think about that new Drake on, bro.
So I think, yes, 100%. Headphones in's a pretty good cue for those out there. If you're not picking up on that, it feels like a Progressive commercial when you're turning into your parents the moment you start approaching people with headphones. Maybe they'll steal that and, you know, just give us a little credit. But I'm, by default, don't want to talk to anybody at all on the plane. I am terrified for whatever reason. That's one that's outside my comfort zone in particular. And my girlfriend loves when women approach me in public situations, even if it's a sweet old grandma, because it's a joke amongst some friend groups. But no, I don't know what to do. I freeze up. I don't know how to talk to a girl. Like, I'm like, please go away so that we both don't get killed by my girlfriend. And obviously that's not what she's trying to do. But in my head, I'm like, you know, like if we're at a bar, the girl comes up to me, I'm like just pissed on my leg.
Hide behind her.
The reason I bring that up, recently was on a flight and there was a cute girl, the only other person in the 3 seats, and the entirety of the flight, she didn't have headphones in or anything. The whole conversation was, oh, there's an extra seat. I'm going to move over. Didn't talk.
Riz.
Yeah. It doesn't matter who it is next to me. And on the opposite side, when people are talking to me, I just want to get out of it. I had a couple talking to me on a flight about, I think they restored cars. And that was the extent of what I took away from the conversation, which is bad on me. I need to be more present there. We're all on somewhat of the same side, it sounds like, once the cabin doors closed. The counter argument that I've heard before is, do you know how high the percentage is, especially on an airplane, especially if we're talking Delta or some bougie airline? But
love Delta.
The connections that you can make and the people that are near you on these flights is so crazy, because flying is a privilege. It's generally something that more frequently will happen when you've accumulated more money. In general, those are the connections that people are looking to make, I would say, especially from a business perspective. And you always hear the stories about people who, oh yeah, happened to be sitting next to so-and-so. They were super cool. That connection wound up working down the road to their benefit, as Mike says about the people.
Right.
And then if you go back the last 5 minutes, we've weighed a lot of excuses and not a lot of opportunity for talking to people on the plane. And so it's really interesting dynamic, because, you know, we see benefits to these things, and then still we all can be better. And that's not saying go talk to everybody on a plane. Don't be that person. The headphones are in, drop it. But you can view things as an opportunity, and good things can happen.
It's like most of those airlines do offer like those lounges. Like if you have the money for like those lounges, I know you can meet a lot of CEOs, executives, vice presidents in those lounges. Only reason why I know that is because my vice president of my company, we just hired a guy that he just like, dude, I met this guy at the LAX airport in the executive lounge for American Airlines. And now I'm working with him. He's the guy like who's working side by side with me. And this dude's sick. This dude's from LA. I talk to him all the time, every single day, just about like just work shit, outside shit. He's one of the closer employees I've ever had at this company. just because he said something to my vice president of my company. So he's just like, now he's got a job out of it, which is like what you can do. Doesn't have to be the executive lounge. It could just be getting water with your water bottle or going to the Starbucks line. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's how I think of it now, especially opening a lot of doors for me.
Yeah, I like that.
The other thing that you mentioned, Eric, that wasn't airlines, was this idea of wanting to be something and using the values of that person that you want to be. Who was just working on this at work this week. People love to say, I want to do X, I want to do Y, I want to do Z, I want to be someone who goes to the gym 5 days a week, I want to be someone who goes on cool adventures or goes to Europe and tries new food. But that's the extent of the effort, is an I want this. I think the same thing happens with leaps. Florida looks so cool, I would love to live in Miami. Okay, well, you can want to be it all day, but no, why don't we be that person? Why don't we start doing things that a person who does that would do? You want to eat healthier, let's be someone who eats healthier, because the realistic truth is the only difference between wanting to be that and being that is you not making that leap.
It's a commitment. Yeah. It's taking a step, being committed, doing it, and doing it. I've been saying you talked about eating healthier. I've been saying I wanted to meal prep and at least just like try it, see if I can save money, see how it works for me. Because Eric, I too work in sales. So like I'm out in the field all day, and it's super easy to be out running appointments and they're like, all right, I'm gonna just grab something quick. I'm out. I'm gonna spend a couple bucks and be done with this, so I don't have to worry about it. It took me, I kid you not, probably 2 months, and this is one of those things. Again, it's not there is no right answer. It was dumb of me to take 2 months to figure this out. I wanted to figure out like what glass containers that I wanted to use for like my meal prep. So they finally came yesterday. And this is the Kroger journey. They finally came yesterday. Went to Kroger today, meal prepped everything, and I'm super proud of myself. Like this is great. I did a little bit of math. I got 9 meals for like $7.75 a meal, and these are full meals. So I'm like, all right, we kind of doing something here. But to the point of like just taking a leap. If you want to be a person, if you want to do something, if you have it within your means, not even if you have it within your means, take it and it may come to you in a way that you're not expecting. It could be, I read it on, we'll call it LinkedIn, or maybe it was Facebook or something like that. But somebody said, you're worried about the cost of getting started. Just think about the cost of staying where you are. Like think about what you could ultimately be sacrificing by not taking a step or teeing some things up to take a stab at who it is you want to be, what it is you want to do, or where it is you want to go. So Nick, I think you bring a good talking point for that.
Yeah, I think just kind of piggyback on that. Like, I think that's a good thing to sort of just digest, is just, we all sit here and we have ideas of these places we'd like to be, or these people we'd like to become. And, a lot of us can look up to either people who are professionals in our field or people who have exceeded to becoming, like, let's say in the business field, VP, CEO, CFOs, things like that. And it's easy to want to attain those things. But going back to what you said, Nick, like we could sit there and say, I want. But at the end of the day, if you're not making any changes to make strides towards becoming that, nothing's going to change. And you're just going to be in the same place. And then you're going to sit there 1 year down the road when promotion time comes, and you're not going to get a promotion that would put you on that track. And that's kind of the price you pay for not taking that jump and giving it a twirl, like you were saying.
I don't know if this is just my experience, but I found, Brandon in particular, you talk about promotions and work. I've found that you're more likely to get recognition, a promotion, make more money, whatever it is that motivates you. You're more likely to get that by taking a chance and failing versus playing it safe. Whether it be your boss, your boss's boss, your coworker, whoever it is, somebody recognizes that you're making an effort to do something different, to try something new. And from what I've experienced, a lot of executives like that. A lot of people in those positions where They have a ton of direct reports. They're leading large companies, whatever the case may be. They appreciate that you took a risk and you were willing to try something new and get a different outcome or a new outcome that everybody else maybe didn't work for. You weren't necessarily following the mold. And I say, don't go completely rogue and do your own thing, but to take a calculated risk. If you fail, you fail. They tend to appreciate that a bit more.
Yeah, I think that's something like I noticed in you, Eric. Like just in the time that we went to like your corporate golfing event and things like that, when we talk about, when we look back and reminisce on like how we were back in high school and our early college days, like neither one of us were the type of person to go out and sort of strike up a conversation with people. But then seeing you in that sort of atmosphere around your coworkers and things like that, like it's easy to see the impact and things that you've made on, you know, your higher ups and things like that, how they all know you, you know, by your name and by the things that you do. And they all associate sort of your very extroverted, you know, positive, funny personality with the hard work that you also provide. And I think that's like a lot of I think you got to give yourself a pat on the back for that. So just to see where you've came from to that now from where you were, you know, like even just 2-3 years ago is pretty cool. So
I noticed that a lot, and I appreciate that too. I noticed that a lot with all of our peers too, Brandon, like including yourself, just coming from, you know, when we visited you at, is it Deauville? No, where is it?
Yeah.
Is it Deauville? Yeah. I thought of the name the other day, and I thought of a completely different name where it was like, I forgot what I said. And I was like, that's not where I went to school. So, yeah. So like from visiting you to there to seeing you in the professional field, it's like seeing you there, seeing Tom doing, you know, promotional sales for the farm team of the Yankees. I see within myself just in self-reflection, which I think is a super healthy thing that everyone should do every couple of months, just self-reflection, if not every week. That self-reflection, when you self-reflect back 2 years ago, I always tell, you know, my girlfriend who I met here, I'm like, yo, I was a completely different person 2 years ago. Yeah. I'd be like, I don't even know if you would want to be with me. And like Nick kind of brought up before, I think it was the backstage part when we were talking about it. He was like, dude, like, you know, Eric, like, you know, you came to change your life. Like it really did. Like just taking those opportunities, like those calculated risks that Mike said, and like seeing where I came just in the sense of just transforming, like, you know, being 235 pounds down, you know, I cut down to 190 and now I'm muscle building back up to 215 right now. Like I'm just, it opened up opportunities just for like, I'll go out randomly. People are like, what's up, big dog? Some guy called me a fullback in LA the other day. Coley's like, what's a fullback? That's my girlfriend. I was like, it's a position in football that opens up the gap for a running back. So like, just like building off that. Yeah. Just like building off that. It's like, it kind of makes me feel good because, you know, that's just like when I first started working out, nobody noticed. And I was like, dude, I'm putting in hell of work to do this shit. And then when people started noticing, especially family members who are a little bit harder on you, like, God damn, like, dude, like, good job. Like my uncle, who's just kind of like an asshole, he's like, dude, you've been fucking lifting? I'm like, yeah. So just like those little things, like always kept me going, just helped me put up more weight. Just, it's almost like a therapy at this point. And just seeing like, okay, what's my end goal? Like, what am I going to do? And now I have the opportunity to change people's lives in the sense where like, Eric, how do I get started? Like, dude, well, everyone has their own motivation. Like, what is your top motivation? You know, people have like different music. Music can get you there, or just the sense of like, I want to lose 10 pounds by this. We can keep a super simple plan, or we can do something else. Like I got my brother into working out. He's been lifting every day now. And I saw the difference with him when he visited me in Vegas, like a month or two ago. He's getting shredded. And he's like, dude, like he looks at me and he's like, dude, you motivated me just by not saying anything to me, but just by seeing your progress. And I was just like, yeah, that means a lot. So that touches me right there. And that's kind of driving my next goal in my life, which is to be a personal trainer. And I'm taking the necessary steps right now to become a personal trainer, which is sweet. I'm super excited for that.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I think one thing that you struggle to teach, I'm going to say you can't teach it, you probably can, but passion's hard. And when you have passion and you do things that you're passionate about, it really shows. So lifting, for instance, with Eric, that's something that wasn't always a part of Eric's life, but it has really fueled a lot of change going back to, you know, times that were tough. That was somewhat of a rock, is you could go to the gym, you could listen to your music that got you fired up. And it has been a keystone in you, I would say, changing for the better. but definitely changing nonetheless. But
if you didn't like me in high school, it's fine.
yeah, and it's not like Eric just wants to be. No, I'm kidding. It's not like Eric wants to be this massive dude who just throws things all the time because he wants to be big and strong. He genuinely enjoys lifting, working out, and sees the change that it can make, which drives him to want that personal training. It's not
it's like 70% mental, 30% body growth, you know?
Yeah.
It's really good on the mental. Just gets that extra pent up energy. You're working all week and then you're like, dude, I get to go to the gym for 2 hours after this. Just lift who the hell I want and feel good about myself.
And choosing to view it in a light that is productive and healthy and helpful, not as I have to go do this, right? It's this I get to idea.
Not a chore.
Your power.
Lobby up.
Yeah. I even think similarly, Brandon, you ran a marathon today, your first career marathon. We've talked about this. If anybody mentioned running to you at any point,
like this morning,
and
you're awake right now, functioning.
I took a nap after, but yeah.
Hey, kudos, man. Hats off to you. All right.
Appreciate that.
I'm surprised we didn't address that earlier.
Dang.
But at any point years ago, I would say any point more than a year ago, if we mentioned to Brandon, hey, you want to go for a run, or what do you think about running a marathon? You would have laughed at us and said, no, thanks.
It's true.
That'll be his idea. He's like Paulo. Stubborn. No, I'm just kidding.
But there's something to be said about taking a chance. Like you guys mentioned about taking a chance and failing over being safe. That doesn't mean go do dumb things. Use some logic. You don't just take a chance because it's a chance and that's always better than playing safe. If you're up 5K at the casino, maybe don't throw 10K down because you think you're going to hit it again. Like, it's okay to walk away there.
99% of people quit before they win.
Oh, that's
right. But if taking the chance can be really big, and you do learn regardless of if it's successful or unsuccessful. Even back to the good old Fleet Feet days, Eric, when he was in Tallahassee, came to our wonderful store, Mike.
Great.
He was not a running shoe guy. He was not an insole guy. And what did we do? We just tried a couple out with no pressure to walk away with any. There was obviously a benefit because I gave them to him at a little bit better price than he might get retail.
Right. Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. No, I'm kidding. But
off the record.
Yeah, I believe that. No. But what we always say with insoles at the store is you're not going to know unless you try. Me personally, I don't really care if you buy this. I don't work on commission. It doesn't benefit me one way or another.
Yeah.
But if you don't try it and turns out you would have liked it, that stinks that you never knew. Let's stick it in the shoe, have you do a couple laps, see how it feels, reevaluate that self-reflection that Eric talked about. It's not just shoes that we're talking about. You can do that with a lot of different things. You can self-reflect about running after you try it and give it an actual try. Right. So many people hate running, but have they ever run consistently for a month? Because it does get easier. Maybe not when you go 26 miles, but I would bet for Brandon, the 3, 5, even an 8-mile run is a lot easier than it once was, where it's maybe a little bit more enjoyable. Maybe not, but you got to try to find out.
Yeah, completely agree.
That's something I think about too, just, kind of back on the gym stuff as well. It's like, dude, I remember thinking certain weight was super heavy. I remember I was watching this one kid kind of struggle with a certain weight. And I was like, dude, I remember when I was there and I kind of wanted to go up to him and be like, yo, dude, keep doing it. Because I know right there, somebody said that shit to me too back then. Dude, I'm working out for all ends. And that's a relationship you build in the gym and it's a good community to build.
It is.
That's some stuff I've done before just with people, but not all the time, not 100% of the time. I won't go up to somebody and be like, dude, keep killing it just because I'm in my zone, they're in their zone. I don't know if they want to be approached. This kid might be in high school, super timid, or a big guy, that just doesn't want to hear your sort of input because they could find it in assaulting and stuff like that. Insulting, sorry, not assaulting.
And we're gonna stay away from that. That's not what we're doing. All right, we don't want to assault anybody in the gym at all.
Not assaulting people unless they press you. Then you can swing. No, no, but that's the same thing, kind of the same idea.
Yeah. So speaking of community, though, not quite gym community, but a very, very important part of our Men to Mind podcast community. Our producer Natalie. All right. Nat, she does a lot of let's give it up for Nat. So she does a lot of work behind the scenes. Nat, we appreciate you putting up with with our antics and staying up well past your bedtime to make some of this work happen for us. But we do have a fun fact about Nat that we want to share today. So, unbeknownst to anybody else, Nat's fun fact is that in college, when she was at the Great Florida State, she traveled to see her favorite band. It's called Mute Math. Y'all know what that is? No, okay.
Let me on.
All right, so you either dating yourself or we just not hit the music. All right, so there's one or the other. All right, so her favorite band, Mute Math, favorite song by Mute Math is Control. When she was at Florida State, she followed them to 3 cities while they were on tour to see them perform. So she is a dedicated fan. Not one performance, not 2, but she went for the trifecta, 3 different cities.
That's great. That's impressive.
Yeah, that's some commitment right there.
It's a real thing right there, yeah.
It's me with Zach Bryan. I'm just kidding. That's awesome.
No, that is super cool. It's to see people doing it again. Instagram, it can be great. It can also be super toxic because think about it. We're really the first generation that has that much access to all the cool things other people have and how good other people may look in the pictures and the angles that are just right. And it can be super toxic, but there's also benefits to it. And it is cool to see people live out things like following a tour. If Nat has photos and videos from her following their tour, I bet they'd be sweet to look at. But I do love seeing, again, people just be passionate and going around doing what it is that they enjoy. So we've touched briefly on this. So I'm just going to kind of wrap it in a sentence and then go over to another area. I think that openness, acceptance, and the idea of there not being right answers that we've touched on really drives a lot of the ability to take leaps. Without it, it's just hard to make that jump. But I think it's worth mentioning that the jump isn't always worth making. There are times when it is okay to cut your losses. I think one of the most salient ones for people is relationships. Sometimes it is time to get out of a relationship, whether that's with a company, whether that's with a significant other, you name it. I know things about you that the audience may not know. Not asking you to share those, but I know all 3 of you have at times taken calculated risks on when it is time to move on or when it's not time to move on. So maybe I'm not going to name names so you guys can talk about anything that you want, but I know some of you guys have turned down job offers that you had an opportunity for that you once thought was a really good chance, or you've turned down the ability to stay in a place when you could have stayed there, you could have moved home. A lot of different things, but talking a little bit about cutting losses and the things that go into your evaluation process, I'd love to hear from you guys.
I was going to say, I just got offered a job like last week. They just offered me a job at this one company that was commission based only. And it was one of those things where it's just like, it didn't feel right in my gut, just especially being away, having to pay a certain amount of rent, just budgeting myself and my lifestyle. And obviously I could cut things out that I don't need. I don't need that extra, I don't need to go out every weekend. I don't need to go out once a month. You know what I mean? But I cut my losses and I weighed the opportunity. I called my dad immediately, who's in the business space. He owns his own company now and everything. So I was talking to him about it. He's like, dude, sounds like a great opportunity. However, this is just really probably a bad time just because we weighed all the cons and pros together, life goals, stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I mean, that's just hearing it from somebody else makes it a little bit easier, but just having myself kind of vent about it and be like, this is how I feel about it. He's like, yeah, because he wasn't on the meeting with me. So I just kind of reflected everything that they were saying to me. And he's like, I know certain people there do a really good job because I had a connection who works there now. And he's traveling the world, doing a bunch of cool shit. And I'm like, I would love to be able to afford all that stuff. However, maybe right now isn't the right time. But that's just kind of, recently a story that I had that I just wanted to toss in there real quick.
I think kind of one thing I agree with Erich on a lot is you have to sit there and listen to your gut and what feels right and what maybe doesn't feel like the right time or just the right opportunity. I think a lot of that same thing can be said for relationships as well. You know, there can be a point in a relationship where sometimes you may feel like you're too far in or too invested or too deeply rooted in a relationship to make a change. But I think it's okay to remind yourself that it's never too late to make a change. If at the end of the day you're sitting there and something doesn't feel right and you notice yourself changing in ways that you don't necessarily agree with or feel happy about, I think it's a good time to sit back and maybe, like Eric said, get an outside person's opinion, because at the end of the day, you're going to be a little bit, biased one way versus the other because you're the person in the relationship. But that's why I think it's good to have people around you that you can trust to be honest with you and can just keep it real with you, like at the end of the day, I just need your honest opinion about this. Let me know X, Y, Z. And, there's no hard feelings one way or another. So I think listening to your gut and getting outside opinions is always beneficial.
I think just sorry to jump in again on this topic. I just think it's something I think about a lot. It's really because I know Brandon and I have had conversations in the past, and Nick too, actually. We've had conversations in the past about one of my recent relationships a little bit over a year ago. And Brandon had a relationship too that, he had to deal with too, that was just like, dude, I got to get out of this. How the fuck do I get out of this? So, I was just puzzled myself. And it's easier to hear from somebody else. You're just like, dude, why not do this X, Y, and Z? And then you're in it and you're like, dude, damn it. This shit sucks. So it's one of those things too. It's like, it's that leap back to that first point we made. It's that leap you got to take, and it's right in your gut. It's just like, you have to deal with some tears. There's probably some tears. There's backlash in the sense of like burning a bridge. But like in the end all, think about the end goal. Like, am I going to be together with this person for the rest of my life? Can I do that? If that's something that, maybe you believe in. And it always turns out when you're really questioning it, I found out this too. And this is advice that I can just give, certain people who have never really like been in love before. It's like, you'll know if it's right basically within the first year and a half. If it fits. If it fits, it's great. If the person starts changing for a different mindset, maybe it's time to call it quits, not cut your losses, because it's a learning experience in that sense. You know what you're looking for, and when it's not there, especially in the current relationship you might be in. If anybody listening to this is going through something like that, it's like, it's the worst of the worlds right now, but I guarantee you 2 months from, let's say you cut it off, 2 months from them, you're on your own. You'll be the happiest person you've ever done. And I've done it myself personally. I know Brandon's done it too. He's in a super healthy relationship right now as well. Same with Nick.
I think don't exclude me. Mike's in there too. All right.
Mike too. See you in the other room.
All right, we good.
Monday.
We good over here.
I think it's interesting. Oh, sorry. I think it's interesting when we talk about that. One, Eric, I wanted to point out cutting your losses isn't the right phrasing. You mentioned it is still a learning experience. So the phrasing of cutting your losses, probably not the best there. That's just what happened to be in the notes. So making a mental note there, going to work on getting better with that. But it's those little things that you keep going at. Similar to that with relationships, you mentioned the idea of spending the rest of your life with that person. I don't know how many times we're going to do it. It's just because it's important, but the idea of process versus outcome, I've had this conversation before with a partner, and it's a tough conversation to have, but it was super fruitful and important. The thought of her being a wife or me being a husband to her, or her being a mother, me being a father, 2 children, or whatever you're looking for down the road cannot be the reason that you are in that relationship. That is just miserable. You have to enjoy the journey there. Are those thoughts that can be good and bring you joy? Yes, 100%, but that cannot be a focal point. Sometimes people get caught up in that. Like, there's the pressures that come with that ideal, whatever you want. I think for a lot of people, it is a family, and they've got ideal roles and ideas about it. But those aren't built out of nothing. It's not just the idea that gets you there. You can't just want it. Again, you have to be the person that's in it. So
And Nick, I just started sweating. All right, man. Them words, that string of words that you just put together. All right, listen, scary hours. That is some treacherous work right there, man. Whew. Oh man. But I do want to add on to the relationship piece, an important piece that I think supplements what y'all have said. Relationships are challenging, y'all. But they are very, very challenging. And I think we've danced around it a little bit about changing as a person, the other person changing, whatever the case may be. When you take a step back and look at it, first of all, I think you got to slow yourself down, take a look at the relationship, see what's going on, and ask yourself, am I changing in a good way? Are these positive changes? Is this person trying to change me, or are they trying to challenge me? Right. I think that's another thing we got to look at. I think we very, very much so run from a challenge in a heartbeat. Like, is this challenge good? Are they trying to challenge me because they recognize there's more potential inside of me? Or I said I want to, like Eric said, he's getting into personal training. I said I want to be a personal trainer. Is my significant other challenging me, saying, hey, what are you doing today to actively take steps towards accomplishing that? Are you doing something to get towards your goals? Are those challenges that you're witnessing and realizing? And another third piece I think is very important is, are we okay with knowing that our person is going to change over time? And I think when I was younger, it was like, oh, no, I don't want so-and-so to change. Like, I love you for who you are and what you got going on. But as I got older and matured, my favorite food changes over time. Like for 5 years, I can remember like bourbon chicken. That was my favorite food when I was 10 to 14 years old. After that, it changed to something else. So this could be your favorite person in the world. You can't expect them to stay the same until y'all are 85 years old. Like at the end of the day, they should be changing. They should be growing. They should get new hobbies. They should have new interests. They should want to continue to learn and do things that promote creativity, spontaneity inside of the relationship. So like, I think those are things we got to keep in mind when we talk about cutting losses, or not cutting losses, but cutting ties inside of a relationship. Just take a very broad look at what you have going on and ask yourself, like, are these changes I'm willing to grow with them through? Or is this something that I can't accept right now? And if you have to do them the favor of, hey, you're growing in a way that I love that for you, but that's not something I can handle. Like, be willing to admit it to yourself. Don't stop their growth because you can't handle where they're growing and where they're trying to create new life, or a new life in that area.
I think it's a really good point, especially about the kind of challenging versus changing. I think part of like you were saying, Mike, we may have this perception or this idea of what we want this person to be, but it's not our responsibility as an outside force to get someone to mold into someone else. Our job should be to be an additive partner to them, and like you're saying, challenge and push them to reach their goals. But as you're saying, like, you can't sit there and try to force someone to fit in a box just because you want them to be a certain way. So I thought that was really, really well said.
Facts.
I completely agree. I'm even going to throw in another parallel that I'm asterisks. I'm not a parent, so in many ways I'm not qualified to talk on this. One of the most interesting things when I was going through school was some of the psychology around parenting, just from the aspect that, as we've said, there isn't always a right answer. There's multiple ways that things can get done. There's multiple ways that you can raise a child. Europe has a very stark contrast. My professor in undergrad spent some time in Norway, had some family there. And one of the times he was there was a 3-year-old climbing a telephone pole. He was very concerned, as most people in the US would be if they saw their 3-year-old climbing a telephone pole. And was like, we got to get him down. We got to get him down. We got to get him down. They all laughed at him. Like, why do we need to get him down? He's going to fall and get hurt. They responded, continued to laugh, and said, if he falls, he won't do it again.
Not bad logic.
No. True. Like, are there boundaries and are there lines? Yes. And are both routes a good way to go? Yeah, I could see either side. But affording yourself the opportunity to choose a side by knowing both sides and exploring both sides is valuable in itself. I think parenting, when we talk about you can't force people to change, a lot of times people whose parents tried to force them into X, Y, or Z, it doesn't always go well. There's some distaste there, and hopefully there's conversations that are had where both sides are seen and you come to a resolution. But I can think of more than a couple of friends whose parents maybe were a little too hard, and that scarred the relationship. I see that in relationships as well, most on the unsuccessful side, but that's a really important piece, especially when we talk about motivation, is allowing for change and challenging, but not requiring. And that allows people to have more of this, I get to do XYZ opportunity instead of I have to do XYZ, or here comes reward punishment. So that was an interesting connection that you guys kind of filled in for me.
Yeah.
We are at 1 hour 20 right now. I mentioned we were going to briefly go around the horn and talk about something that we might be able to implement, something that stuck out to us about this podcast in particular. So my question is, in terms of taking the leap, being more open and accepting, and increasing this self-reflection or self-evaluation, what's something you hope to do more of this week, and how are you going to keep yourself accountable for it?
I'll start this week, and Eric, in the same realm as you, getting into personal training. I am working on getting into personal training, coaching, fitness instructing, just health and wellness as a whole. I think
Oh yeah, man.
I want to help other people have healthy lives, and I think that working out is a staple of that. And so I've had a couple of friends. My brother actually, he said he wants to run a marathon. And he texted me this just a couple of days ago. He said, "Hey, I want to run a marathon. I want you to help walk me through it." One of my other friends from Louisville, she just ran her first half marathon yesterday, completed that. She ran the whole time, was super pumped. She did off of 2 weeks of training. She was like, "Hey, Mike, like, I need help." It was very, very sporadic. But nonetheless, this week, but I've been talking to Nat and Nick about this, ordering my iPad, started to put training programs together, and just help, just get information out there. I don't pay me, like, let me do this because I have a passion for it. Like, y'all, we talked about it. You can't teach passion. Like, I have a passion for this. So let me just get this information out here and be a resource to my community, to those who want to get fit, want to do something, but don't know where to start. So that's what I'm doing this week.
That's a great one, especially like kind of reflecting off that. I have a whiteboard right here that I'm looking at, and I have 10 plus like things that I need to do. Those 10 plus, I would say about 4 of them are self-improvement in the sense of being able to get to the gym and follow some sort of like writing down my sense of the workout so I can reflect it in this sense where somebody else wants to follow a similar path.
Yeah.
I have a buddy out here that I met in high school, and he has wanted to do personal training. I've been helping him sporadically because his schedule is busy and so is mine. I've been texting him all week, the last couple of months, every week for the last couple of months. Just talking to him about, hey, what'd you do this week? What'd you have to eat? We got to hit a calorie goal, but you got to want to do it too. So it's almost like I don't want to follow up in the sense where it's like I'm bothering the shit out of him like I'm his boss, but I also want to be a little bit like, hey man, just as a friend, and I care. Don't pay me, obviously, kind of like what you said, but I want to see what we can do together in the sense where am I at right now? What's my baseline? How can I help you? What would my training do for you? And then from there, maybe we could film the progress for yourself, and even for myself to put on my portfolio. It'll be like, hey, I made this guy my client. He followed this, this, and this. He was eating 3,000 calories a day, hitting a certain weight. He wants to gain weight in this sense. So I was talking to him about that. So that's something that, maybe just a self goal myself is kind of reaching out to him and being like, hey, what do you want to do? Let's get something done. Maybe I'll make my training program for 2 people that I know, one who wants to lose weight and one who wants to gain weight, right? Because I've had to do both. So just kind of following up on that. And instead of just kind of talking about it with that person, maybe write it down. Like get a whole notebook together for this one person, a notebook together for this person. And I hand it to them and like, hey, this is what we're going to do. Yeah. Push, pull legs or whatever we're looking to do, just to get to them to their end goal. And this is where we need to start, like a building block.
Yeah, I love that as well. I think both of you guys had really cool points about coaching and challenging people. We had a friend of mine and Mike's, Mr. Caleb, on the show a little bit ago, and we talked about self-discipline versus motivation and how those two intertwine. Big shout out to him. He had his 5K in some of the worst weather possible. Some of what hit you, Brandon, in your marathon today. He was in Chicago and had 30-mile-an-hour winds and 50-degree just constant rain, trying to set a PR that he's been training a while for.
Dang.
But he ran it just about where he wanted to be. He got under 19 minutes, was at about a 6:05 pace, which was cruising for what he was going for.
Yeah,
huge. So, and I put together a lot of the plans for him and was talking with him, constant communication on this idea of how can we challenge him and help him get better. And it is super rewarding on both parties, because obviously Caleb did a lot of the work. I sat on the couch a lot, but awesome experience for me too. Brandon, what did you have for this week?
Yeah, I think one thing that a lot of us had talked upon is kind of self-reflection. And I think that's one thing that I don't necessarily do a lot. And to go back to your point, Nick, I think it's very easy for me in particular to kind of, like in this instance, training for a marathon, compare where I'm at in my process and my progress to others, like whether it's TikTokers I'm following at and how they're training for a marathon and what kind of gels they're using and, you know, what their pace and their splits are like and things like that. And I think part of me gets a little bit too caught up in being like, okay, I see these people doing this. I need to make sure that I'm getting to that point. And then when I get to that point to what these people are doing, then I'll be happy with the progress I've made or where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that I've really kind of like taken to heart recently is like comparison is the thief of joy. Here and compared to other people, you know, it's hard to really embrace the strides that you've made in yourself. So I think the one thing I'm going to be a little bit more consistent with is setting more time and consistent time in my schedule to sit back and reflect and compare where I'm at now to where I was before. Like you were saying, Nick, like if you had asked me a year or two ago to run a marathon, I definitely would not have done it. So to be where I'm at now, I know like I'm very happy that I did it and accomplished that goal. And that's something I need to give myself a little bit more credit for and reflect on the things that went well, the things that didn't go well, so I can improve upon that and be better the next time, but also sit there and appreciate the journey and the training and the things that I did to get myself here rather than, you know, sitting and comparing myself to the other runners that I was running with. So,
yeah, I think that's super relatable. I've definitely struggled with a lot of that comparison in running, especially in college. So it hits home for me. There's two quotes that I'm going to shout out. One was Brandon's, just their comparison being the thief of joy. Got a star next to that on my sheet. And then another one that, Mike, I believe this was from you. If I'm wrong, correct me, Eric, take credit. But I think it was Mike. You said you had heard, you're worried about the cost of getting started, but think about the cost of staying where you're at. Yeah. That one's for me. That's one thing that I want to focus on this week, because I love pros and cons lists, but it's always about whatever that next thing would be. It's never about where I'm currently at. And so thinking about that, I think will be really big. There's also an opportunity, since I'm afraid to talk to people, as we covered a little bit. There's 30 people who will be coming through a course at work that we'll be putting on for the next 2 weeks. My goal is to get to know them a little bit more and push myself to network and build some connections there. So I think that's a great opportunity, and I'll get a little bit more specific with that tomorrow probably and put together something on the whiteboard so I can hold myself accountable beyond just get better, because you just say get better, not specific enough to lead to a ton of success, but right. I'll flush that.
That's awesome.
Love it.
Well, I think that's just about everything we got. A little bit longer one today, but a lot of good conversation. Brandon and Eric, I want to thank you guys for coming on. Mike, thank you for being here as always. Nat, thank you for putting everything together.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, thank you. It was an awesome time. Really appreciate the conversation and the insight.
Yeah. Hey, always down to have more. And if you're listening and you made it this far and you haven't liked or subscribed or done anything like that, that's kind of crazy, but yeah, whatever.
Nah, that ain't kind of crazy. That's full-fledged crazy. Like, you should have, all right, yeah, 1 hour and 30 minutes in. All right, listen, like, subscribe, share, please. Yeah. Drop us a note. Any questions y'all want to answer? As always, we're here to just give our opinions on a couple of things. Just maybe circulate some conversation around thoughts that people don't have straightforward answers to, and wonder if anybody else is encountering those same things. So this is meant for y'all, meant for the masses, and hopefully we're reaching some people. So we appreciate y'all tuning in and locking in with us for a little bit. This is episode 9. We're on the journey to 10 right now, just to get our content up so we can get it out. But this is episode 9. So again, Erich and Brandon, we appreciate y'all for joining us. We're signing off. So we'll catch y'all next week.